I rise in support of SB 2 and applaud my colleague from Gardena for carrying this bill and the water this year on this particular issue. You know, SB 2 is really just a continued step in re-engineering policy back to its appropriate intent. Sometimes not original intent, but appropriate intent. And I would submit that SB 2 is about protecting citizens, protecting law enforcement, and protecting local government. And I believe that all of that can coexist. You know, the reality is, today, practice is not consistent. That's what we've been talking about. Practices are not consistent. Policies are not consistently applied, consistently enforced. That is the issue. How do I know this? Well, I'll just share two examples that happened, like just one last week and one 2 months ago. In the Southgate area, a young Latina was having, something had gone awry. Two law enforcement officers came to get her. She got into an altercation. She was unarmed. She was mad. The one officer handcuffed her, threw her to the ground on the grass, and literally started punching her in the face. In the face. Her partner, his partner, then stopped him. You saw it on video, stopped him and said, don't do that. Take a pause. And he did. And you saw the reset happen in his head. And then they continued on with this conversation about why she had been arrested. Last weekend in Huntington Beach, there was a party, some kind of celebratory party, and thousands of young people showed up for this party that was fake, okay? And they were irritated. And they started rioting, jumping on top of police cars, breaking the glass, setting off smoke and fiery fireworks, jumping in front of the faces of police officers. Those police officers had no riot gear. They had not called in a SWAT team. They were not tasing anyone, no billy clubs. There were arrests, but for something so ruckus, there was lots of order. It's inconsistent. Now you can fill in the rest of the dots about who was who and what they looked like. But that is at the root of these examples that I'm sharing with you and at the root of this bill. I have to tell you that no bill answers every hypothetical and every anecdote. That is not the job of law. The job of law is not to sort of presuppose what human nature is going to do. It's about guardrails and standards and due process and policy. And yes, faith in people to interpret with consciousness and flexibility to do what is right. And when you see a pattern of egregiousness, that is when you step in and re-examine policy. But we're not supposed to parse out every single thing in hopes of finding the no. We're supposed to have faith in the process. And my friends, this thing gets off the floor, it still has to go over to the assembly. There's some process to engage in the questions. So the real question is, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of with this bill? I have to tell you, A, it's really hard to prosecute a police officer. Standard of proof's kind of high. Prosecutors don't like to do those cases because they don't like to lose. I have to tell you something else. We don't have a fair and impartial anything, okay? Anything. We strive for it, but we don't have it. Number 3, with regards to the board, have some faith in people. Those words on that sheet of paper are categories. They're not telling you who those people are. Newsflash, Black folks, brown folks, pretty conservative when it comes to law enforcement. We like to be safe too. We call the police too. So let's not presuppose that every single person who might fill that category of those board members is out to get law enforcement. I prefer to think that we will pass this, that it will go to the assembly, and that people who care about the issue, that people who care about their neighbors, that people who care about their brethren who are law enforcement will continue to talk about SB 2, to tweak it in ways that make it more righteous. But also consider this. We may, in passing SB 2, create a scenario where law enforcement officers find comfort in a process that may allow them to be safe. Because good cops know the bad cops. Those bad cops do bad things. And they bully and they harass and they intimidate. And they make you beholden to a blue code that puts even your blue brothers at risk. And I want to protect those men and women, just like I want to protect my husband, just like I want to protect my son. So I urge you to have faith. Have faith in this body and the fact that people who are working on this bill have some sense and sensibilities about them, and want to make sure that there is something passed that is righteous and appropriate and consistent, because that is what we are all looking for, consistency in the practice of how people are protected and kept safe, and why certain people are not. So I urge you to vote aye on SB 2. Thank you.